The reason we've asked all of you here today is there's just increasing concern that Brad Cox is not going to be brought to justice. He clearly committed a felony. I understand the district attorney's position that the statute of limitations has run. That is only true with respect to the 2 misdemeanors that he mentioned. It is only true with respect to aggravated assault. However, what you have here is injury to a disabled person under Article 12 of the Procedural Code. That has a minimum statute of limitations of 5 years. Based upon what Mr. Cox did to Mr. Vess, in my opinion, that he committed serious bodily injury, which would make it a 10-year statute of limitations. Accordingly, we are well within the statute of limitations for Chief Garcia of the Dallas Police Department to issue a warrant, arrest, and prosecute Brad Cox for exactly what he did. And we're calling upon the Chief of Police to do what is necessary here, and that is bring Brad Cox to criminal justice. He's being sued in the civil courts, that's a different matter. But Chief Garcia of the Dallas Police Department has a duty here to reopen the public integrity investigation and arrest and charge Brad Cox with exactly what he did.
Mr. Vess, how has this impacted you?
I just can tell you I'm blessed to be alive. I've got numbness down my face, broken teeth. I shake on this side. I limp because the police were crushing my ankle and I had a broken ankle that day. And it's made it hard. I don't really know what to say about it. Like I said, I'm blessed to be alive.
Mr. Vess, can you tell us what was happening from the time you first had contact with that paramedic?
When I was walking down the side of the road, I was going to the SPCA to do community service. I sat down and the road caught on fire, and I was out there smoking cigarettes, and Brad Cox, he hopped out of the cruiser and he ran up, he judo kicked me in the face, and then I don't remember much after that.
Did you throw anything at him? Did you do anything?
Yeah, I threw something at him, but it missed. Because it was right after he kicked me. I remember throwing it, and then that's all I really remember. It was all a flash.
But you threw after he kicked you?
Yeah.
Sorry, can you say that again, please?
I threw the PVC pipe after he kicked me.
You didn't do anything to instigate his response?
No. He just came out there booting me in the face.
What were you thinking when this paramedic that you would expect to be helping you responded in this way?
I didn't know he was a paramedic because he was dressed in solid blue and he had sharp sunglasses on. I thought he was a gang member. I don't know what I was thinking. It scared the living crap out of me.
I will say the video, which I'm going to play a portion of video that I got off of YouTube. I'm not permitted legally to give you what the prosecutor's given me, but it's all the same. But I'll point out that all the video that has been given me begins with the fire truck already there. It depicts what he is describing. It does not show the fire truck arriving. So I know that I do not have all of the video. I'm told by the candy company, which owned the business that owned the surveillance camera, that everything they had, they turned over to the Dallas police. I have for 2 years attempted to get that video and was told it simply did not exist. Well, it did exist. The prosecutors didn't have it because DPD had it in a different section of the police department, and they held it. Now, they say it's an accident, fine, I don't care. But what I still don't have is the very beginning. If this is the beginning, then why do we not see the fire truck arriving? And then that would show us who struck at who first. But the bottom line is, Brad Cox, let's assume for the sake of argument that he had a right to defend himself. Once he no longer needed to defend himself, his justification for using force ended. And the repeated kicking and punching of Kyle Vess was a felony offense for which the statute of limitations has not expired, and we call on Chief Eddie Garcia of the Dallas Police Department to arrest and prosecute Brad Cox for the conduct he exhibited that day. He beat and, I mean, just savagely beat this man for no reason. I suspect for no other reason than the fact that he thought it was some homeless guy that didn't have a family, didn't have the means to get somebody like me, that no one would ever know it. He'd just go rot in jail and be on his way, and he would never be held to account. It's time for Chief Garcia to make this fireman be held to account.
George, you mentioned the discovery issue. Obviously there were some periods of time where, without COVID, there would be a case that already would have played out before some of this stuff would have come to light. Is there a concern that, not only are you still waiting for information, but this could have already been, he could have been convicted before some of this stuff came to light?
I can tell you right now, had it not been for COVID, this case would have gone to trial. The DA was seeking penitentiary time based upon this offense, and without that video, it would have been me trying to argue against the fireman. If the jury believed that fireman beyond a reasonable doubt, this man would likely be in prison today.
What about that previous case, and what have you sort of uncovered it during your investigation about what happened prior, and what's your reaction to knowing that he's had allegations of misuse of force previously?
Well, two things. The one where he falsified a government record, I knew of the existence of that charge. I had made a request probably more than a year ago to ascertain precisely what he'd falsified and what was the basis for doing that. The second thing, though, is I did not learn until, I believe it was the Dallas Morning News told me, that Sergeant Cruz, of the Dallas Police Department, specifically said that Brad Cox has got a history of this kind of behavior. I'm entitled to know that. Now, the Dallas DA's office has done nothing wrong. They gave me everything they got. When they got those surveillance videos, they gave them to me that day. So this is not the fault of the DA's office, it's the fault of the Dallas Police Department. And I don't care what their excuses are, they have no excuse to not turn this stuff over. If Sergeant Cruz, and I assume the officers under his command, are aware that Brad Cox doesn't know how to interact with the public without beating the crap out of him, I'm entitled to know that.
Now, you say you're seeking justice. In your professional opinion, what would be just?
Brad Cox needs to be arrested and charged with injury to a disabled person. He meets the definition, multiple definitions of a disabled person. If you assault someone and cause bodily injury, the statute of limitations is 5 years, it's a third-degree felony. If you cause serious bodily injury, meaning permanent loss of the use of any bodily member or organ, which he clearly has, then it is a 10-year statute of limitations. I'm hopeful that when you guys get the word out that Chief Garcia is simply operating under the misunderstanding that the statute of limitations has expired. I want you, the press, to inform Chief Garcia it has not expired. He has the ability to reopen that public integrity investigation, tell Detective Allen or someone else, go get a warrant, go arrest Brad Cox, put him in the same jail that he caused Kyle Vess to get stuck in for more than a year, and let him face the criminal justice system just like he caused Kyle Vess to have to face it. It's time for him to get a piece of his own medicine, to be quite honest with you, and it's time for the Dallas Fire Department to fire him. I mean, they've got a guy with a history of this. These firemen live together. They answer calls together as a group. If the police department knows that Brad Cox has a history of this, then the men and women who work with him at that station know it, and they should have reported it. The lieutenant over that watch or that shift should have reported up the chain of command that this guy is beating people up. I mean, in this situation with two different firemen that tried to intervene to save Kyle Vess, and he shoved them away. Now, I can't hear what's being said, but you can only imagine that these other two firemen are saying, stop it, you're gonna kill this guy. I can't believe he's alive. And if you understand his pre-existing mental and physical conditions, it is a miracle that he is seated right next to me today.
Kyle was initially charged. What happened to him after this attack?
He stayed in jail. This was before I was involved. And an appointed lawyer, what I've been told, an appointed lawyer believed that he was incompetent to stand trial. She asked that a doctor, I believe it's Dr. Pittman, evaluate him to determine competency. The psychiatrist evaluated him, determined he was not competent. He was then transferred, well, first there was a hearing to determine that. Once it was determined legally that he was not competent, he was transferred to the state mental hospital, where he remained for a considerable period of time. That period of time was extended on their request, and then he regained competency. He was returned to the Dallas County Jail. Then we appeared before Judge Clinton, who ordered that he be released on bond and live with his parents. And he has essentially been under house arrest since that time, and that's been at least a year. Now, this has gone on for quite some time. Brad Cox has eluded the justice that awaits him for quite some time. It's time for that to end.
George, you mentioned that the security surveillance video doesn't have audio. Do you mind me asking Kyle if Brad Cox said anything to him before?
He didn't say anything to me. It just, all I remember, I was sitting on the curb and I was on fire, and the road was burning, and he jumped out the fire truck and judo kicked me in the face, and that's when I got up and I threw the pipe, but I missed him, and then he tripped me and he stomped on me for a minute, and then it was all on the video.
Do you remember anything that the other firemen said?
No, I don't remember nothing. It was all flashes.
So this fire that they're talking about on the body camera video, do you think that was started by something you were doing, or was that just?
I don't know.
We don't know.
I don't know. It was a hot day. It was dry outside, and could have been a car backfire or something. But all I know is I was walking down the road, and I was getting engulfed in flames. And then I sat down because I was passing out, and he come up and he kicked me in the head, and that's when I chased after him, and that's when he tripped me behind the fire truck.
Do you know who finally put that fire out on you?
No, I was telling them to put me out. They were putting out cones, and I was telling them to put me out, and then Brad Cox, he jumped out the fire truck and jumped on me.
Before we watch the video, I just wanted to extend an opportunity for, I assume, parents?
Yes.
Would you all
Parents and
have-
sister.
Parents and sister. Is there anything that you all would like to say?
It's like my son said, I think he's lucky to be alive after seeing what happened and what that guy did to him. Because he's got an existing head injury, brain injury, TBI, and he repeatedly kicked him in the spot. He's got a steel plate in his head with screws, and that's where he kicked him several times in that area. And today it's left him with more problems now that we have to deal with. We called and pleaded with the Dallas County Jail to get him back to Parkland Hospital because he needs help, and they kept denying it. They denied it. They wouldn't let us see him, go visit, and we requested over and over and over daily. We told him everything from his pre-existing injuries, and we said if he's hurt, at that time I knew pretty much what had happened. I said it can cause him more damage.
How long did you try to get in?
Like 3 months, 5 months, I'm thinking.
Couldn't find him.
They finally
Well, we
let
knew
me see
he
my
was a
family
little
after
scared,
I healed up.
Yeah, but they wouldn't let us in there to see him or talk to him, because now we know they didn't want us to see the weight condition he was in.
What was your reaction to seeing that video for the first time?
It made me sick. It really made me sick.
Sick to my stomach.
It's as bad as it gets, however you wanna say it. It is sickening. But it's, our system let this go on and just let it continue on and didn't do anything about it. And I went to the public integrity 4 days after this thing happened and talked with them and laid everything out. And I felt like I did a lot of their investigation for them because I gave them Kyle's history growing up and on and everything. And then told them about the videos at the candy company. They didn't know that candy company videos existed. My wife and I figured that out. I went to Lee Allen and gave them all this information, and they later turned and locked it up and used it all against us to suppress everything. And it just kept getting worse and worse as it went on. And that's finally when I hired this gentleman right here to help me out, because I went and did everything right by the law, and it ended up, it doesn't work.
What's your name?
Kevin?
Kevin, K-E-V-I-N?
Yes, ma'am.
Dad.
And I'm not sure if this is for Kyle or for the family, but can you kind of describe the week leading up to all of this? I think in body camera footage, his mom said that she hadn't heard from him in a few days. What was exactly, where was he living at the time, and what was going on in that week before all this took place?
I was staying in a hotel right down the street from the SPCA over there. And I was going over there to do community service. Just when I was walking up the side of the road, I was dehydrated. And I sat down and the road caught on fire. And then all of it played out. And I don't really remember much. I remember getting booked into the jail and I couldn't feel my face. And they were rolling me in there in a chair and I had a boot on my ankle. And they put me in a single cell and I don't remember nothing really. I black eyed, concussions and broken bones and a deviated septum, cracked teeth. He messed me up pretty good.
It's almost like if you get a broken arm or leg or toe or whatever it may be, you go and get it treated with a cast or wrap. They didn't do that to my son. They put him in a cell, a padded cell, for months. And we begged and pleaded with them to, hey, get him back to Parkland. They didn't want to take him back to Parkland because the doctor would have to basically write up what happened, what caused the injuries. We knew that. And they even went and attempted Lee Allen to get the medical records, tried to go down there and get him to sign a waiver for the HIPAA so he can go over and get the records. I guess to hide those, he was unable to, but my wife and I ended up getting from Parkland.
I will
Shows
say,
the damages.
I will say hats off to DPD Sergeant Cruz and an officer named Cuddy, female officer who responded on scene. From everything I've read, the two of them did their level best to get Brad Cox prosecuted.
I feel like the cover-up started 2 hours after this incident went down. Going back and looking at everything, it was a cover-up started 2 hours after it went down. If you listen to a lot of the audio and video, and then there's things I've known, it's how it all went down.
It's sad. It could happen to anybody, to anybody's child, mother, brother, sister.
And when I went to, finally they told me after they finished the investigation in public integrity, I'm welcome to get all the open records, because we were wanting to see the police reports, what happened. Well, finally, when we were able to obtain those and we get them, and the pages are blacked out, and I'm thinking, well, if my son did all this, if they kept telling me Lee Allen and the public integrity and all these others, why is all these pages blacked out? My son here hurt this guy and chased him and attacked him, and because for the day, a couple days after it happened, I told them, they said he chased this guy and was trying to beat him up, and when I told him he couldn't chase nobody, his ankle was broken just a few days before that. And that's when they shut down everything.
So that was their claim? Their claim was that he was chasing the firefighter?
They said I had a steel
Yes.
pipe.
Yeah, and at that time it
They
was a
said
steel
I had a steel pipe.
You had a steel pipe and you were chasing
And
the man who assaulted you?
I was chasing all the firefighters.
So when I finally told him it couldn't have happened this way, it's impossible, because he had a broken ankle, and I said, go over to Baylor and you can get the x-rays, and that's when it all came down, and it just, they shut down everything. We couldn't, that's finally when this gentleman here told him,
In all honesty, this will happen again. It's been happening, and they've allowed it to continue, and it's gonna take a bold move like this to make the right changes. I mean, I really feel that it's gonna happen to somebody else, and I'm hoping that with the attention that this case gets, it brings people out of that have, the shadows of the abuse that they've inflicted upon others, and
We'll say,
it's scary.
we've got an exemplary fire department, Dallas. I think everybody would agree with that, but we've got one bad apple, and that apple needs to be plucked.